Garden, where the New York Knicks have lost 17 straight games.
Good job, Knicks.
Can you believe that?
Did you say
17 straight games?
And management is ecstatic about it.
Timberwolves are in town tonight, but they will be out without Karl Anthony Towns, who will miss the first game of his NBA career. More on that in a moment. He had a car accident yesterday on the way to the airport and is now in the concussion protocol, so he is out tonight against the New York Knicks. Here's head coach Ryan Saunders.
After further medical examination, Karl is entering concussion protocol. He'll be unavailable tonight, we'll just take this, day by day, hour by hour. I spent a lot of time with him this afternoon. He was in good spirits, and he's ready to support his teammates tonight, and we're just looking forward to it.
Towns has started 303 straight games. That is the longest streak to begin a career of consecutive games started since the league started tracking starting lineups back in the 70-71 season. That comes to an end tonight. Amazing. You guys know what it's like. You turn an ankle, a hamstring, whatever it is. That's an amazing way to start a career.
Man, I had to look at you when you said that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. And give kudos to him, and hopefully he gets well. Being in concussion protocol, that's nothing. You have to take that serious.
Sure.
I had my son that had a concussion, so wishing him well. Hopefully he get a chance to come back. But that's amazing stat, B. Wood.
Yeah, I mean, especially in today's time where guys are talking about rest and all these other things, for him to go out there and play that many games in a row, that's flat out amazing. Speaks to his level of conditioning, how he takes care of his body in off season and in season as well. And that's very good for a young player to do, because a lot of times you see older guys like LeBron that really realize the value of taking care of their body. Obviously, Karl Anthony Towns has learned that lesson early on.
Is that from today's game he's out with the team? I'm not sure.
Was that the video?
Yeah.
I think so.
That was from today, okay.
But I don't know. He's there. He's with the
You
team.
should be home in the dark room right now.
Well, he got on a flight. He got on a commercial flight to New York, so I assume that's from today. Okay. Yeah, he's there with them. He's just not playing tonight. By the way, a question for you guys. Timberwolves are 4 games out of the 8th spot in the Western Conference right now, with 25 games to go. Are they or are they not in the playoff race?
Yeah.
They're out, in my opinion, as well.
Yeah.
4 games. You guys are tough. 4 games?
I just don't see it. The teams in front of them, the Lakers, Sacramento, and the Clippers, all those teams will be fighting. And I like the Timberwolves. I just still think they don't have that next gear to leapfrog one of those teams.
Yeah, San Antonio's in that mix too, because they're in the 7th spot. I just don't think Minnesota's going to make up the ground. They haven't shown me that they're going to play at that level. There's, 25 games left in the season? For you to make up 4 games and jump teams like the Lakers, Sacramento, we're talking about San Antonio, they'd probably have to win, 21 of their next 25 or something like that.
And they also have to have beaten some of those teams head-to-head matchups. They're going to have to definitely beat them to be able to leapfrog.
Yeah. I don't think
they're ready. I don't think they're ready for that step. It took everything they had last year to barely squeak into the playoffs. I'm not sure they have it this year. I think they'll be better in the future, but right now I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year.
I can't disagree with you, but you're crushing hopes and.
Sorry, man.
It is hard. You just say 4 games, you feel like a team could make it. I just don't see the Timberwolves.
Dream crushers.
Yes.
Both of you.
Well, we're giving us our honest opinion.
Which is exactly what we want. More coming up here on Game Time Live, presented by State Farm. We talked about Anthony Davis. There he is. He made it past the opening tip.
Hey, he wouldn't if I was the coach.
Straight face, B. Wood.
Still working the boards.
What's in? Matt B. Wood just got fired.
Come sit beside me.
Tonight in Dallas, and they welcome back Gary Harris to the lineup.
Can you just talk about Gary Harris returning tonight and the importance of him, particularly on your defensive scheme?
Yeah, obviously, Gary missed the last 7 games going into the break. And to have him back, even though he's on a minute restriction, will be great, because his value on both ends of the floor is very high, but especially defensively. We feel that he's one of the better defending 2 guards in the NBA. And Gary's physicality, his strength, allows him to go out there and be a disruptive force at times. So we've missed Gary, and getting him back in our lineup, in our rotation, is going to be great to have him back.
If Luka doesn't play tonight, how does that change your game plan?
It doesn't really change our game plan. Obviously, with him, he's one of the better pick and roll players in the game, so we'll probably see fewer pick and rolls. But for us, Chris, it's all about the sense of urgency that we need coming out of the break, regardless of who's playing for them or not, and trying to understand the importance of consistent defense for these next 25 games. I think that's going to be a really important thing on top of getting healthy and staying healthy is, can we become a consistent defensive force these last 25 games?
I know you don't like to look ahead. You're a one-game-at-a-time guy, but you've got 4 pretty big games to close out February and get another winning month. Can you just talk about those 4 games in a general group?
Yeah, obviously, we've been a really good home team this year, and my hope would be that continues as we close out this month. After tonight's game, we go home and we have, I believe, a 4-game homestand, and some division opponents, some teams that are fighting for their playoff lives. So right now, it seems like every game is going to be important. All 25, so that's why we're really trying to focus on one game at a time. But it's the same old for us. Go home. Hopefully our crowd continues to come out like it has all year and make the Pepsi Center one of the tougher places to play in the NBA.
With Trey unavailable, who are some of the guys you look to eat up some of those minutes at backup power forward?
You can go a lot of different ways. Obviously Mason, Nikola, and Paul have been getting the lion's share of the front court minutes. But if you wanted to go small, obviously Juancho is a guy. Torrey Craig, his defensive versatility, his ability to guard different positions. Those are guys that could definitely, be in the mix to get the minutes that Trey was getting prior to his injury.
So you're, okay, maybe some instances of throwing Torrey out there at the 4.
Yeah, the way we play, it's positionless basketball. Torrey, to me, you judge a person's position by who they can guard, not what you do offensively. And Torrey Craig is a guy that can guard 1 through 4 almost any given night. So, and Juancho the same. Obviously, I think Juancho coming back from the break, feeling a little bit better with his injury. Hopefully we can find a way to get Juancho going because he was a big part of our team early in the season when we had all those injuries.
What does Juancho need to do to get back that early season form? Besides having this break and this rest, what are some key things that he needs to do?
Get healthy. Juancho's been dealing with some injuries all year long. So my hope is that coming out of that break, that time off, that week off, hopefully allowed his injuries to calm down a little bit. And, we've got a deep team. And the reality is when you have so many guys playing well, you can't play everybody. So Juancho's got to stay ready. And when his number is called, he's got to go out there and play as hard as he always plays, defend the ways I know he's capable of, and step up and make shots. He's a guy that can shoot the ball very well from 3, and we're going to need that anytime he's on the floor.
Like coaching Dirk last week, and also just his overall impact in the NBA over the past 21 years. What is just your overall takeaway and what his legacy is going to be?
Yeah, I didn't coach him. He was on Bud's team, but obviously he came into that game and hit 3 threes in that first half. It looked like it was going to be Dirk's game for a minute. But when you think about Dirk's career, his legacy, one of the greatest international players to ever play in the NBA, his stats, his rankings, the impact he's had on the game is well known around the world. And for me personally, having a chance to get to know him a little bit off the court as a person, what a humble guy. Here's a guy that's a class act through and through, humble, and if you spent time with him, you would never know he is a player with the resume that he has. World championship, top 10 in scoring, so on and so on. So whenever he does step away, the game will definitely miss him.
What have you seen out of Luka Doncic so far this season and the kind of numbers he's able to put up at such a young age?
Yeah, he's a special talent. Here's a guy that has come in as a rookie, and if you watched him prior to his NBA career, he was doing things at a young age in the EuroLeague that no one's ever done. So this is just kind of par for the course for Luka. No stage is too big for him. He has a flair about his game that reminds you of a Pistol Pete, Jason Williams. His passing ability is phenomenal. He's a guy that you like watching. And his ability to play pick and roll, find the open man, hit big shots. He plays like a guy that's not an NBA rookie, and I think that speaks to his ability to play at such a high level over in Europe, and even leading his country to the European Championship a few years ago. So, very, very bright future, and Dallas has a great player on their hands.
Thoughts from Michael Malone, who faces the Dallas Mavericks without Luka Doncic tonight. He is out with an ankle injury. Denver begins the night second in the Western Conference, but they also have the second toughest remaining schedule in the West. 2 games each against the Warriors, OKC, the Blazers, Spurs, and Utah, all still left on their schedule. What, in your mind, will be the difference between them holding on to that number 2 spot or being passed by the Thunder or perhaps some other team that gets hot?
I think for me it comes down to focus. And they have a lot of young guys on this team that haven't been in the playoffs, and they haven't really experienced what it is this time of year to start really ratcheting it up. And so I think that Denver, if they keep their eye on the prize and they focus, they'll be just fine, because this team hasn't been healthy all year long. They've had this guy out there. And we're not talking about minor pieces. Will Barton missed major time, Gary Harris, Jamal Murray. And they just continue to win because no matter what, they have a next man up mentality. As long as they keep with that hungry attitude, I think they'll be fine. They just can't lose focus. They have to finish this year the same way they did last year. Where last year down the stretch, all those games became must-wins for that team. They have to have that starting right now because they want to hold on to the number 2 spot.
I look at it, B. Wood, as health one. I think for me is also defining their roles. I think the coaching staff's going to have to find out how do you score on offense. I love the way they play offensively, B. Wood, but sometimes I go, the only one I know has a definitive role is Jokic. Everybody else seems like they can come down, shoot when they want, and they're not bad kids taking low percentage shots. They need a point guard to set them up, and maybe that's Isaiah Thomas. He's a scoring point guard, but I think the key to them is Paul Millsap. If he can get back to playing somewhat when he was playing when he left the Atlanta Hawks, and I'm not saying all-star level, just being a factor, I think they have a chance. And it's the defensive end for me. Yeah. They can't get stops when they want to. They can score with anybody.
15th in the league in defense. Remember at the beginning of the season, they were pretty good defensively, top 10 in the league, even top 5 for a little while. But the next question is something you just brought up, and that's roles, particularly at the end of games. Gary Harris is back tonight, albeit on a minutes limit, so you've got Harris out there. You've got Jamal Murray out there. Isaiah Thomas just made his Nuggets debut last week. And you have arguably the best backup point guard in the league in Monte Morris, who's been terrific for them this season. Who's out there at the end of games for Denver down the stretch?
Nobody knows.
No one knows. And then, and to your point, Matt, even when you're out there, how do they play? And I know the ball offensively finds guys, but I just don't see a way that night in and night out, this is how they're going to beat you offensively. I look at a lot of guys like Jamal Murray. He gets hot. Gary Harris gets hot. Jokic gets hot. Will Barton gets hot. But consistently, who's the number 1 option? Who's the number 2? Who's the number 3? And other guys can fill in, be what I just don't know.
Well, Smitty, you talked about it. You talked about role definition. Role definition is the most important thing any coach can do in basketball. At any level, whether we're talking college, NBA, overseas, role definition is the most important thing that a coach can do. Define the roles, get players to buy into those roles. That's what Mike Malone has to do down the stretch, because he has a lot of guys that are hungry, that have played well when other guys have been out. And now how do you reel that back in? How do you get guys to understand? How do you get a guy like Beasley to understand that, hey, your minutes are going to be squeezed a lot right now because we have a lot of our guys back? You have to get guys to buy in and understand, or else it can sometimes lead to friction. That's what we've seen in Boston all year this year. Denver doesn't want to experience that at all. So it's up to Mike Malone to realize this could be a problem, get ahead of that, and explain how things are going to play out.
You know, you might even make the argument that Morris has to be on the floor late in games, particularly playoff time. I mean, they run a ton of their offense through Jokic, but he has a high turnover rate. Maybe you want a truer point guard out there, which Morris is. He's not as talented as Murray or Harris, but he's a real point guard.
He's a real point guard, but that's part of the beauty of Jokic is that he's a point center. That's how he gets all of his assists, and he makes up for the fact that maybe Jamal Murray isn't a point guard. Maybe Gary Harris isn't a point guard. They're both just guards. In this game of positionless basketball, they fit in well with the Joker. I think those 3 guys are your core. They have to play. You have to figure out who's going to play around them. I think coming down the stretch, guys like Jamal Murray, when we talk about Gary Harris and we talk about Jokic, those 3 have to play. Then you figure out who the other 2 are down the stretch.
You know, sometimes it's easy to forget that the coaches we see on the sidelines, they were players. Almost all of them.
Mike Malone was a player?
Almost all of them at some point,
Where?
at some level.
Okay.
Where did Mike Malone play?
Loyola Maryland University, the Greyhounds, home of the Greyhounds.
Okay.
Played there for 4 years, and we have evidence from practice this week. George Gervin sits second on the Spurs' all-time scoring list. The 4-time scoring champ is still 9th in NBA history on the career points per game list as well. The Iceman also happened to be Smitty's childhood hero. And over All-Star Weekend, the two got together to chat.
This is a shot that made Ice famous. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. One thing he could do was finger roll.
No one does it better than George Gervin. You've said it a million times, but you can say it a million more.
He's got every shot you can imagine and then some.
Oh, that's a great move.
Can you believe that?
And this may go.
It does. Love it.
Here's Gervin. Yes. They call him the Iceman, Mr. Cool.
I did everything George did. I wore my socks. I tried to get his numbers wherever I could, and just to be like George.
Smitty, the clutch and go, he floats it in.
Nice finger roll like his idol, George Gervin.
One of my favorite things to do at All-Star is hang out with the legends. But now I'm getting to hang out with the legends of all legends from the east side of Detroit. But you know what I wanted to know that I didn't know? Who gave you the name Iceman?
Fatty Taylor. Went to Virginia and played with the Virginia Squires. And Fatty Taylor, you know, was like the captain, and Dr. J was on that team also. And I used to go to work, man, and, you know, after we finished, I didn't sweat. And he just couldn't believe it, man. I mean, and he always just say, man, wow, man, you ice cold, man. I mean, you know, and they was just getting to know me. I'm probably one of the only guys, man, in the history of basketball, man, that shot for his contract, you know, because I was playing with the Pontiac Chaparrals, and I was averaging 38, and Johnny Red Kerr saw me, and Johnny Red Kerr knew Earl Foreman, and he called Earl Foreman, who was the owner of the Virginia Squires, and he said, you need to take a look at this kid, and they flew me in, and they say, shoot. And I made 25 out of 33s, and they say, you hired, so.
This is the shot made me famous. Finger roll. One thing I can do, finger roll.
Gervin down the lane, finger roll is good.
Who was the first person you saw finger roll?
Will. I mean, you know, you think about it, he had a dipper. You know, Will was dipper. You know, he dip it in. You know, and then I'm Connie Hawkins. You know, and then obviously I, you know, played with Doc.
When was the first time you started finger rolling?
I remember '97 when we became 50 greatest. I was at the table with Will, Connie, and Doc. And Will say, Iceman, how you know, you stole my finger roll. And then Connie Hawkins say, no, he got it from me. And then Doc say, well, yeah, you know, he played with me, he got it from me. I say, hey, guys, you know, I took a piece from each one of you guys and just made it famous.
Yours was a different flavor. Yours,
yeah.
Yours was a little, you know, the twist. Because, you know, I followed you everywhere, George. You know, East Side Center, Coleman Young Center, every time the Round Ball Classic. And, you know, you used to come out and just roll the balls and just throwing them up.
Well, I mean, but, you know, all three of them guys was great, you know, and I didn't have to invent the wheel. That's a shot I enjoyed watching. You know, everybody can dunk, but very few could finger roll.
And, you know, I have my segment, Smitty's Under the Rim, because I didn't play above the rim, trying to be just like you, Ice, making sure you play under the rim. And you look at it right now, there's a lot of guys that are very prolific scorers without dunking, without athleticism. Who are some of the guys that get Ice to turn on the TV? Because I know you're on the golf course pretty much all day.
Yeah,
but when you're not on the golf course, who's some of the guys get you to turn the TV on?
You know, obviously, I like to see a guy like Kevin Durant because he can put it in the hole, and he's you know, a little taller than me, but slender-wise. Right. You know, it's nice starting to shoot that, you know, mid-range jump shot, you know, so it's making him more effective, you know, so he's a little fun to see. And, you know, I was Seth, I mean, the way he handled the ball, you know, I got a son, little G, he reminds me of G, you know, putting the ball in the hole. I mean, then I like Kawhi, because Kawhi play both ends.
Ice, you like somebody play defense?
I do, man, because I always wondered, could he stop me? You know what I mean? So that's the part I like about defense. I mean, defense wasn't my specialty. I mean, but I did lead the league in block shots one year, you know, as a guard. So people say I couldn't play no D, but they wouldn't say I couldn't play no O.
You talk about O, now, my Mount Rushmore of scorers, Ice, you're on there for sure. So I need 3 more of all time. Who you got on there, including this era? You're on there already.
For scoring?
For just scoring. We're just about putting the ball in the bucket.
Wow, I mean, it's kind of hard to go away from Rick Barry.
You, Rick Barry, we need 2 more.
Yeah, I go with another guy, man, don't get no credit, Alex English. I mean, Alex English, man, scored 2,000 points by 8 years in a row.
Yep.
You know, I mean, he wasn't fancy, but he was effective.
You need 1 more?
Well, he probably would have to go with Kareem. I mean, he scored more points than anybody with efficiency. And I think all the guys on there that I just named did it differently.
Right.
I don't think none of us scored the same. You know what I'm saying? We had our own way of scoring, you know.
Who was the one guy, Ice, you know, that you looked at and said, ooh, he can score close to me? You know, no one scored like you, but who could score close to you? Was it David Thompson back then? He was different.
Yeah, David had his own style, I mean. But, you know, I mean, they wasn't entertainers. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know, and I ain't saying that like nothing against them. I mean, they, you know, they could do it consistently. I mean, but, you know, you could turn off the TV with them versus I think I did a little different.
You did.
I'm older now, so I could say it.
Right.
I don't think they did it like me.
In this era, if you had one player, you needed to go get 50. Is it Harden? Is it Durant? Is it LeBron? Is it Steph? Is it Clay? One guy to go get 50. Paul George. Just one guy you could pick that, as you said, I need to go have 50 this game. Who would it be?
Man, I have to say Clay, man. I mean, he broke my record. I mean, and didn't miss. You know, I mean, he came to me and told me he didn't break it, but I agreed, you know, I mean, but I mean, you know, he did. I mean, he didn't miss that game, man, when he got 37 in a quarter. He a shooter.
He's a shooter.
He ain't a scorer. Steph scored and shooter. Durant scored and shooter. Harden scored and shooter. Some guys, I mean, making it in the league now because he's just a shooter. And some guys just a scorer. You know, to have both. You know, it's like a HEB or something, you know. You can go get anything you want at the shop.
And here it is. That's right. The famous shot of George sitting on those blocks of ice. It is timeless.
This is the poster I had on my wall when I was growing up. I think this is the poster everybody in our neighborhood had on their wall. This is the most famous poster, I think, in basketball history. Branding is important. You talk about, for you, your branding with that poster. Talk to me about that process. Did Nike come to you? Did you go to Nike? Did your agent representative? Just talk about that process of...
Nike came to me. Nike called and said that we was going to do posters. That's when they started doing the posters. You know, it was not just to me. And, you know, it was Maurice Lucas, Dr. Duncanstein, you know, I mean, it was quite a few of them, but they was on that campaign. So they said they wanted to do one for me and Ice. You know, so they brought me in studio and stuff, man, and it was Ice machine there, man. It was Ice there, and they built that. You know, people think that's fake ice. That's real ice. I mean, I sat on that ice, man, 6, 7 hours, man. I mean, if you really look at it, you know, you'll see I'm sitting on plastic.
Yes. We talk about that poster, Ice. So since we're going to finish this up, you know what I have right here.
Yeah, that's original. Everybody don't...
This poster, you know, especially for us growing up loving Ice. Talk to me about, you know, the smooth and coolness of George.
Hey, man, I never knew, man, that was going to be as popular as it turned out. I mean, everywhere I go, man, as I grow up, and even today, man, people say, man, I had that poster on my wall. You know, the guy, they used to always say, man, I had a poster, man, you know, Farrah Fawcett and the Ice Man. You know, I mean, so, you know, being in Texas, she being from, you know, Texas, that's all they talked about, man. And it was special to me, and it still is today, man. And you got one of the originals.
I got one of the originals, and, you know, I had this poster at home, and now I got one of the originals. And
wow.
Ice, I would love for you to sign that for me.
Man, that would sure be nice, dude.
Love you, Ice.
Love you, man. Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
So this whole interview was really just an excuse to get the poster signed, right?
Yeah, you're right, Matt. But I would say having your childhood hero that you get a chance to sit down and talk basketball. B. Wood at 11 years old, I used to follow him everywhere in Detroit, everywhere. Not just games with the Pistons, because he played all over Detroit, the recreation centers, outside. George played everywhere, and I used to try to go find him. My dad drove the bus, so he gave me bus tickets, and I'd get on the bus and see if I could meet Ice. But when I got a chance to meet him, he gave back. He wasn't one of those superstars that wasn't approachable. Came here, talked to me about my game, and throughout the years, we've kept in touch. And it was just a treat to get a chance to sit down and talk to him. And he still got that swag, B.
Oh, he got big swag.
That swag.
Big swag.
Yeah, he does.
Still has that swag.
For someone like me that didn't grow up watching George Gervin play, what do you think, like, his moment that sticks out the most for you? Because, like I said, I know the name, I respect the name and how he paved the way for guys like you, myself, but I didn't really grow up watching George Gervin play.
I think for me, first he was a 6'7" guard. You didn't have too many guys at that height. They usually play him at power forward. But I think also the one thing when they had that scoring title race between him and David Thompson, David went and got 73, and he found out David had 73, and he needed, I think, 63 or 62 to beat him.
63 is his career high. I think it was 63.
And he went out and got it, beat Wood.
Wow, that's special.
To win. And then just, I think for me, the special moment for him is that he was a major superstar that you could go walk and see playing out at St. Cecilia, which is a recreation center. At gyms outside, at church gyms, at recreation center, which was just unbelievable for me that you get a chance to go up and touch a superstar and he talk to you and give you knowledge.
Of course, back then when we were kids, these guys would play in places like that, right? You can't generally go see guys play in the summertime.
They played everywhere.
Those spots.
And George loved it. I mean, ice. Can't wait to sit down again with him and just talk some more basketball.
Very cool. George Gervin checking in.